Hello, boys. It's Devon here from that podcast you love. Remember me? So, this is obviously not a new episode of Kill James Bond, but in order to celebrate becoming the #1 film review podcast in the UK at time of recording, we thought we would give something back to you, the loyal listener. So, in preparation for our upcoming third Patreon Q&A that will be released on the bonus feed on the 8th of September, we have decided to unlock the previous two for you to listen to for free. So this is the first one. This was episode 5.5, which was recorded between You Only Live Twice and On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and released on April 25th. So obviously a few dated references will be coming up, but I really hope that you enjoy this, and I will see you on Monday for the release of the second Patreon Q&A for free. Don't say I don't do anything for you. Love you.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Hello and welcome back to another bonus episode of Kill James Bond, the podcast where we don't do the bonus voice for the bonus episode.
I'm so sorry. I'm already off
it's the pod. It's a reflex now.
Oh, damn it.
No, we're not doing that here.
Why not?
That is a joke that will only make sense to patrons of Trash Future.
Yes, which I hope all
recommend.
of you are. Wow, okay.
I'm coming out swinging today. I'm in a good mood.
What are we doing this week, Dev?
We are doing a Q&A, the first of our Patreon Q&As.
Yeah, we're going to A some cues.
I have got some cues. And
nice and relaxed. Mm-hmm. No Italian James Bonds, no plasterers pretending to be spies, no video games, it's just us.
No nanobots.
And you, the listener, just our voices directly into your ears.
Just developing that parasocial relationship that makes you want to give us your money.
Yeah, you can even talk back to us now if you want.
Yeah, we'll stop. We'll
just
stop
tell us
for a
how
second.
your day's
Hold
going.
on a sec. Yeah, how's it going, listener? Oh, fantastic. Oh, sorry.
I'm so glad to hear that. Or potentially, I'm really not glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's terrible that happened. Or good, depending on what you said.
You're looking great today, or not.
No, you're always looking great today.
You're looking great today.
Thing is, I'm always so nice to the viewers of Philosophy Tube. Like, my brand is always so like. Well, I mean, it's not just a brand; that's also just like how I am. But I like to just be nice to people and be so positive.
Wow.
So maybe we should take a different tactic with the listeners of Kill James Bond and just be like, fuck you, just.
Yeah, we're going to dom the listener
from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to establish.
Oh, I can't do it. I feel bad.
No, I can. We are going to establish dominance over the listener and make them. Ask us questions, which we will then refuse to answer.
That's right. It's going to be an hour of us not answering the question.
Yeah, you will ask us a question, and then all of us will go, "That's classified."
So these questions have come from, of course, our patrons on our Patreon. I'm doing well already. I picked these a couple of days ago. And I haven't thought about them since, so I'm also looking at these with very fresh eyes.
Yeah, you used the little sort of Men in Black flashy thing on yourself once you scanned them for slurs.
Absolutely. Oh, I should have scanned them for slurs. Oh.
Yeah, because I mean, if there is a slur in there, you will just read it.
Oh, absolutely. This is like a teleprompter.
You better have your finger on the bleep bleep drop.
Dear Kill James Bond.
They're just a lot of these are actually, now that I'm looking at them, a lot of these are just
sincerely Ian Fleming.
actionable threats to sitting members of government.
Named persons.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
really.
Dear Kill James Bond, all of my posts are 100% serious and not a joke. Please forward this to federal agents. Yeah, weird.
Cool. So I'll just crack us right on, shall we?
Please.
To start off with, Ryan Richardson asks, is there anything that surprised you going back and revisiting these films?
Actually worse than I thought. Because I remembered the Connery films as like, oh, they're problematic, like they're racist, they're sexist, whatever. I expected like Bond to like smack a girl's ass or something, or like drop a racial slur. And then we got to Goldfinger, and it's like, no, this man is a sex criminal. And that was, I think all three of us were considerably more haunted by that than we expected.
I think what surprised me is how much some of the plots are just fucking nonsense. Like
Rocket Fall Down,
Mr. Bond. It baffles me that a major film like Goldfinger could be made, and nobody at any point said James Bond doesn't do anything for this whole thing. He's useless. He does nothing for the whole plot. Like, it baffles me that something like that could be made. I was also surprised by just how bad some of the special effects still are, even in the restored versions, which I've been watching. And I mean, you know, I'm aware that technology marches on, but I don't know how people used to look at that and think, yeah, that's fine. We'll just have
dubbing.
That. Even like, you know, like boom shots, like bad dubbing. I'm like, how did you ever think?
There's one scene in particular that brings to mind with me, and it's the one in Thunderball where the pilot is confronted by a guy who is a perfect replica of the pilot, and he opens the door, and it's just so clearly like back projected film of him again, and it's so unrealistic.
Yeah, there's so many shots in all of these that like it's not hugely relevant to the plot of the movie, so I don't tend to bring it up when it happens. But if there is a mirror or a reflective surface in a shot, which there will be a lot, you're going to see a camera crew every time. They will just like trip into the shots. Dialogue won't match up with people's lips moving. No, they're really poorly made in a lot of ways.
Like, some things are just very badly lit.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I know that technology marches on, but still, it's weird how they used to just be cool with that.
Yeah, well, it's funny, right? Because, like, especially with the set design and the props and stuff, as much as I can respect, and I do, Ken Adam for making all of these sort of Baroque Connery-era Bond things, the more outre they got, right? And you can see this going right through to You Only Live Twice. The more they tried to like do ambitious stuff, the worse it looks. And so we get to like the monorail and You Only Live Twice, which just looks like a rickety piece. Oh god,
and it's just vibrating nonstop, that monorail. It was so funny.
Yeah, the second Bond Wiggler of our series.
The Wiggler's good.
Oh, there was another bit in You Only Live Twice where like they're in the control room and the sort of the explosions go off that make the cat freak out. Every single control panel in that room is flapping around because it's just particle board with a couple of switches stuck onto it. But like once you notice it, you can't not. And so going back through these with a sort of a more critical eye has been really damning.
Yeah, definitely. Connery's hairpiece for one. I don't understand it. It seemed to be getting worse as the movies went on. Like, I actually didn't notice that he was wearing a hairpiece in From Russia with Love until Abby pointed it out.
Do you think he got bolder?
It just got up more obvious.
Like the more of it had to be hairpiece to keep up. There's some moments where like he'll get in a fight or something and his hair will get mussed up or something, and then in the next shot it's perfect because someone has had to come over with some stage glue and reattach Mr. Connery's weave.
There was a joke about that in OSS on Set.
Yes,
where he wakes up in the hotel room and his hair's completely mussed, and then he runs like one hand over it, and it's just perfectly flawless afterwards, which we didn't bring up, but that was fantastic. Well, crack along, shall we?
Next cue.
I'm going to get everyone's names wrong. Probably not this one,
It's
but
fine.
a couple of people's.
No, just mix them all up. Say the wrong name for the wrong question on purpose.
Thomas Oberhart asks, for everyone, which is nice because no one has specified for one of us, but a couple of people have written for everyone, which I think is nice.
Where are my for Alice cues?
For Alice, ma'am, can I please private message you?
Where is my
Thomas-
Pennsylvania Secret Service card?
Don't ask about the Secret Service card. We're still working on that.
I can't believe that you have your DMs open. I mean...
Yeah, it's because I love suffering.
I had to close mine when I got into a relationship because I was like, I can't do this anymore, man. Thomas Oberhart
because you just had too many hot people being like, Dev, please. And you were like, sorry, I'm taken.
Okay, that literally is the problem that I was facing, yes. For everyone, what is your favorite gadget? And which is the one you think has the most egregiously specific use case?
Oh, now are you... see, this is the thing, right? You're not asking us about the whole series because we're going to have to keep doing these Q&As. And I like that we have them sort of bookending, more or less, each Bond actor's tenure. So I'm choosing to sort of memory hole all of the stuff after Connery.
Yeah, for the Connery era then.
Yeah, what's...
favorite gadget?
My favorite Connery gadget is the rebreather in Thunderball, where he gets two, like, it's a little thing he can bite down on, and it's got like two ampoules, and he can just kind of breathe through that for like 3 or 4 minutes. And the reason it's my favorite is because despite being extremely silly, the British military, the Royal Navy, having somebody seen this movie...
I'm so glad we found a chance for you to talk about this. Yeah,
genuinely asked Pinewood Studios, hey, this thing in your movie that is obviously totally real, how well does it work and where can we buy them? Because they seem quite useful. And so somebody had to explain to the fucking military, no, we made that up for our fictional motion picture about a guy who's... James Bond's not real, man. It's not a thing. And I'm just... I love to envision that conversation so much, and that's why it's my favorite gadget.
Did you see one of the British conservative women Twitter accounts today tweeting, James Bond was not black and he should not be played by a black actor? It's like, James Bond was not a real man.
We have to protect this giant statue of James Bond in Parliament Square.
James Bond was like 5 different guys.
I would love a statue of James Bond. I would love a sort of horrible, like, multi-faced thing that was like The Thing, a statue of James Bond in Parliament Square.
Yeah, we've got like one of those sort of like Soviet things where it's just a massive slab of granite with a bunch of austere dudes on it, but they're all of the different Bonds. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So favorite gadget. I do like the rebreather and I like the jetpack for similar reasons. I like that it was
fun.
Like real. The jetpack is cool. So we haven't had the watch laser yet, have we?
No, we've had the watch with the garrote in it.
That was going to be my pick.
Not a Bond gadget. It was Red Grant's gadget.
The watch with the garrote in it, I found to be my favorite.
Yeah.
Do you have to like reset your watch after you've strangled a guy with that?
Well, I think the best thing about it is the way it's shot sort of implies that it's extremely difficult to use. Because before Red Grant uses it in both shots, there's like a long shot just of his wrist, and he's like, he has to take a step back and then pull out the garrote very slowly. And to me, that's very fun. Just to imagine that it's just not a particularly effective gadget.
I think my favorite is it might be my favorite and the one with the most egregious use case is the shoe knife that Rosa Klebb has.
Yeah, you're right.
Because there's hardly any scenarios in which, well, my hands are full, but I have to stab someone.
Hey, take it up with the KJB.
Just use a knife. just use an ordinary knife. And it's envenomed as well, and you have to like bend down to apply the venom to the shoe.
You'd be more likely to like cut yourself on the shoe knife, I think.
Yeah, I think you would. Or as you're taking off your shoes to damage one of them. I think either that or the the bulletproof screen at the back of the Aston Martin DB5,
God, yeah,
which
you're
I
right.
think we are also...
Step slightly to one side.
Also, isn't the rear window bulletproof? Doesn't Q
Yeah, he
say...
does say that. Yeah.
So it's just to avoid it being scratched, really. In fact, sorry.
Do try
I
not
think my
to.
favorite, the most egregious use case has to be the radioactive pill in...
You're so right.
In Thunderbolt,
Yeah.
because they have already invented the tracking device that goes in his shoe, and they're like, and now we have invented a tracking device.
you're
and then
right.
later on in the Craig films, they're like, we've invented like Smart Blood. It's a tracking device, and it's like, you have already invented a tracking device. It was good. Just give me that again.
I didn't think about that, but that's so fucking true. They had the shoe thing. It was a whole plot point in Goldfinger, and then they're just like,
just stop inventing tracking devices.
What we've done is we've got this, but like it's now radioactive, just to like.
Now it kills you.
Yeah,
Well,
this
I
is why
guess-
you have to have a hairpiece.
I guess
Just
it's
losing
like-
all of the hair from it.
The extremely realistic rubber masks. Like, oh, we have this, but we have just apparently decided on the honor rule to never use this again.
Yeah.
So we have to come up with a new one.
I almost want to change my answer because as much as I like the rebreather, now that I'm thinking about Thunderbolt, I think maybe my favorite gadget is the massive piss jetpack that Felix Leiter puts on Bond for
Which
the
we
big
didn't use
underwater
as the
battle
episode up.
thing. Oh god damn it! Where it just like he literally is propelled forward on a sort of stream of massive yellow piss. I appreciate that a lot. I think that's very funny.
Oh, that was good. Well,
The gadgets are only going to get worse from here on out, folks.
oh, I'm very excited for that because I mean, going back and revisiting these films, I've only watched one Bond film before I agreed to start a podcast about James Bond. Which, was a
We
strange
hired the
decision on
most
my part,
qualified person.
which was Skyfall.
Oof.
And I talked a little bit in Dr. No about how different Bond is in Skyfall versus Dr. No. But it is interesting to see the way that the character has refracted throughout the years as different directors and different actors have taken it on. Yeah.
I'm excited to get to... It's Lazenby next, isn't it?
Lazenby,
Yes,
and
the
then we're
next
back
episode
to Connery.
After this comes out.
So
will
I've
be
never
Lazenby.
seen the Lazenby or the Dalton ones. I think I've only seen the Connery and the Brosnans and one or two Moores.
Abby,
So we're
I
now getting
think-
into my kind of like lacuna.
Hell
of
yeah.
unknown
I
Bond,
think
and I'm
you're
excited.
really going to like the Dalton ones. I do. They kind of, well, not to leave, not to sort of just lay stuff out before we can use it then, but like they're kind of dark in a way that isn't as repellent as the Craig ones, I find. So
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
Well, Ian McDonald asks, James Bond is trying to learn a new move to expand his repertoire beyond heavy and light attack. What do you think would best round out his move set?
Well, we see that in the next film, and From Russia with Love, he gets a grapple, and that's his thing. He can grab a guy, and he does my favorite grappling move, which is a great 60s thing of grab a guy and pull his suit jacket down around his biceps.
God, yes. And that was
And
like
once that happened,
impenetrable shield.
Totally immobilized.
This man has been taken out of the equation.
Suit jackets used to be made very tough.
These were extremely tight suit jackets.
It's been a long while since I've worn like a men's suit jacket, but I think you've got some range of motion there from just wearing a jacket wrong that is not really portrayed in those movies.
I think maybe some kind of disarm, some sort of counter move and disarm would be a good one for him. Or like an Assassin's Creed style hidden blade, I think would be fun.
Yeah, but it's a shoe
no,
knife.
I think some kind of distraction, like a look over there, but it's James Bond, although it does remind me that if you've ever seen the Man from U.N.C.L.E. Series of TV movies, which if you haven't, listeners, they're very funny. They're kind of like James Bond, but they're deliberately tongue in cheek.
Probably be on
They
the
always
bonus
have
list at
a
some
move.
point.
Yeah, we'll get to them. The men from U.N.C.L.E. have a kind of a move where they they just do like a very exaggerated karate chop right between the shoulder blades, and that just instantly renders the target unconscious and like non-lethally. It doesn't do them any brain damage the way that actually knocking someone out often does. It just like renders them harmlessly unconscious, and it's very, very funny because there's even like there's a fantastic bit where Robert Vaughn, who plays the man from Uncle Heath, Napoleon Solo, he's fighting just a very buff man in a gym, and he does the uncle chop on him, and it doesn't work, and he like does it 2 or 3 more times, and then he's like, my hand, like it's so good. So I think an uncle chop.
Yeah, well, like this is the thing, right? You see it in Eurospy movies too, because it's cooler than punching a guy. Doing the karate chop. Doesn't Neil Connery karate chop a guy?
He does, yeah.
I think he might do.
He hypnotizes a guy using his Doctor Strange hand motion, and then just like knocks him in the face.
Yeah,
which is very good. That's what the episode art for. The Neil Connery episode is the.
I hope you're enjoying the episode art, listeners. I've been trying to go through and find the funniest single frame in every movie, and I'm really proud of the Goldfinger one, which is just the moment when Goldfinger is sucked out of the plane.
Yeah, the Goldfinger O-face is so good.
So good. Wow.
I don't know what on earth they told the actor to get him to make that face, but I wish I'd been on set 'cause it's so good.
Gert, just imagine you're being sucked off by a twink, right? And he's like,
I'm willing to go with the hidden blade idea, but it's the shoe knife. So he just has a very exaggerated.
Okay, what about we fully commit to the fighting game thing, and instead of, as well as light attack and heavy attack, we have special attack.
Well, and so you'll see Hadoken.
Yeah, Bond. You'll see Bond pressing light attack a bunch of times, but the reason why is because he's charging his Hadoken, then at the end of that, he can just like shove a guy and Bond rockets up into the air off the stage and comes back down on you.
Yeah, that's the thing about Bond is his recovery's not ideal. His up special doesn't take him very far, so it's unfortunate.
Put Bond in Smash.
He's not very good in the meta at the moment. It's the only. That's a
James Bond versus Donkey Kong would be a fantastic fight. I'd love that.
Oh, we've killed Devon, which is a shame because they're the ones with the questions.
Yeah, we're done for. Jack, but all of these questions were like which villain or which gadget or which were just about the Sean Connerys, because that was a good point you raised, Alice. Jack Bushell asks, which villain had the best aesthetics?
Goldfinger, Drip King, 100%. Every time. Does not miss. In the heat of battle, he does not miss.
Correct.
Goldfinger starts in this in poolside wear, in this like unbuttoned shirt and shorts. So it's from inauspicious beginnings that we then build up to the gold dinner jacket, which is just incredible.
I don't agree that the beginnings are inauspicious, because his swimwear is fully a like gold lame dressing gown and like cut really short too, being a little bit slutty, which I appreciate.
I do want to give a special shout out to the lady in You Only Live Twice with the black sequin dress with the sheer capelet.
That's correct.
Which I have already sung the praises of on the main show. But it's special
which you will have heard by now.
Yeah.
It's got to be Goldfinger, really. Gold gun. Although he is outdripped in the poolside scene by Bond. I have.
Yes, when Bond is dressed as my dad.
Yes, correct.
Oh yeah, well he's got the like blue terry cloth robe on.
Absolutely, he's got the baby blue romper. Fantastic towel material, incredible, just phenomenal, top to bottom.
Actually, I want to divert here by asking, doing a classic PR move of answering the question I wish you had asked me. What about villain fits? Like not the villain themselves, but like the henchmen. Because I think that's fruitful ground to discuss. Because Dr. No's guys are all wearing like sort of khaki safari suits. But then by the time you get into Thunderball, you're into like scuba pants and MY Disco Volante shirts. And I think that's a glow up, quite frankly.
Yeah, Emilio Largo employs only perfect himbos in very tight shirts. And I think that that's phenomenal, because that's exactly what I would do if I had the villain budget.
Goldfinger,
I feel like-
Goldfinger henchmen all like what blue jumpsuits, which
They
not
work
even
in a
gold.
smelting factory. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, good point. You'd think, maybe he's the only one who's allowed to wear the gold.
Oh yeah.
Spectre, the Spectre guys, they're just kind of in whatever, aren't they?
Yeah, like
just
grey
wearing
suits.
suits and shit.
Blofeld employs more guys wearing gold jumpsuits than Goldfinger did. And that's fucking unacceptable to me.
Red Grant always looks good, but I think that's because he is just so jacked that when he puts on a suit and tie, it's like he's fighting the suit, and it's just a great look for him.
Yeah,
Well, if we're
you gotta
talking
pull
about
the sleeves
also-
down.
classic.
Odd Job I was going to bring up. If we're talking about henchmen that just permanently look absolutely dripped, it's going to be Odd Job.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
All the hat, baby. Well, this is appropriate for the... we can maybe cut this question, but Empress Heliogabalus, which, hi Queen, asks,
Awesome.
which film's combination of Bond and Bond girl has the biggest T for T energy? I had to put that in.
Now, I genuinely feel like the biggest T for T energy is not a conversation with Bond. It's Rosa Klebb and Tatiana in From
I'm also
Russia
going
with
to
Love,
unlock
but-
this one for the entire run of James Bond if there's someone with bigger later on that I haven't seen.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to think. I mean,
I don't remember anyone's name.
Hard to say because Bond doesn't really, and Bond, first of all, Bond doesn't particularly come off as all that trans a character.
No.
And secondly, given that he is like a confirmed sex criminal, at least in the Connery versions, I'm reluctant to ascribe him and any of his victims, I suppose, as having T for T energy. So I think I'll also give it to that kind of Rosa Klebb scene,
I
even
would
though
say
that is also
maybe-
kind of predatory.
yeah,
also
maybe
predatory.
the answer here is still You Only Live Twice, and it's the woman in the sort of capelet and the sequin dress, sort of menacing him with the knife. I think that's potentially quite T for T. It's also Bond getting switchy energy for a second.
I think we even... Yeah, that's true.
Yes,
Oh,
that is
that's true.
interesting.
To be fair, we even flagged up during the From Russia with Love episode that scene did have T for T energy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I said
Klebb and Tatiana.
yeah.
That was such a, I think of all the scenes we've seen so far, that one has stuck with me the most because
It's weird.
it seems so much like something so alien. I mean, just being a trans woman living in Britain now and being like, fuck, like that's what they say about us. Like, and here it is, 40, 50
I
longer
get
ago.
that,
It's
but,
so
like,
bizarre.
I get that, but also like a TFW no Rosa Klebb GF vibe.
Yeah,
I mean, I
that's
don't
the
find
vibe you
Rosa
get.
Klebb particularly attractive, but I mean,
It's
whatever.
the
floats your
principle
boat.
of
I
the
mean,
thing.
well, I mean, you can have the principle if I can have Tatiana. But then my weakness for blondes is well documented.
and the choker, which really like
Yeah, the
she's
choker.
not a villain, so that doesn't get into that question. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to ask me best fit, just the scene where she's just in the Joker. That's...
Honestly, yeah, simple, understated. Just a
Says
choker.
everything it
Hard to
needs
mess
to
that
do.
up.
yeah. That is a necklace that is fully like I am about to try and have sex with you. It has no other sort of sartorial purpose.
Fantastic. This is one I'm gonna fuck up. Jesus. I can't even see this because
Gregor Brenchis-Tijevich asks.
shut up. Emil Agad asks, why do I keep listening to this podcast when I have seen somewhere about 2 Bond movies?
Because you can watch along with us and learn and hate. It's like Duolingo, but for misogyny.
Yeah, this is one I wanted to bring up because I think it gives us some opportunity to be like. I was just going to try to keep going. I also clocked it, but I was like, it's time to just.
I'm really tickled by the idea of someone downloading an app to try and learn to be more misogynist.
10
You
rules for
learn, you
life.
have a little lesson every week. I like
That
that.
little owl that gets mad at you if you don't do misogyny often enough.
The word of the day is bitch.
Duolingo in Polish.
Yes, sure. I thought it would be a useful question for us to sort of talk about what we think the appeal of the podcast to even be from an objective
I don't know.
standpoint.
I just like talking with my friends.
That's sort of where I was at, but I thought to myself that we have a specific audience in mind, and it is people who have seen Bond films. Not all of them, maybe just one or two, and they saw it when they were younger, and their politics have evolved past that point, and they now find it difficult to go back to for reasons that we help to sort of analyze and put into words. Or this is just for people who like Bond, and which, first of all, if you like Bond and you're here, hi, you might be lost.
This is my sort of my less flip answer is that this is basically just free therapy for me. I am deprogramming myself out of the kind of masculinity that Bond and especially later Bonds present. So it's a good opportunity for me to sort of exercise some British public school ghosts here.
Yes, I mean I agree with you there. We talked about that a lot in the first episode. For me, I think it fulfills a similar function, and I do genuinely think that the Bond films are culturally interesting. Not to just repeat what I said in the first episode, but I think when they're bad in interesting ways that are sort of worth talking about. I was chatting about this the other day to Mrs. X, who is a friend of the show, who was saying, so why have you started a podcast about James Bond? And I was explaining, well, I think they're culturally interesting bits of media that kind of say a lot about our country. And I think
society.
Even about our society, we live in one. Especially at this particular time in British history.
Do try and bring society back in one piece, 007.
Exactly. And I think now is a particularly fruitful time to look at Britain and the media that we create.
Well, especially now that we're back to doing sort of flag-fucking Britishness in all political discourse. Like, the conservative women tweet that you bring up is so apt, because now we've moved from people who convinced themselves that they fought in World War II to a generation that now convinced themselves that they lived the plot of the Connery Bond movies.
Just Keir Starmer being like, I welcome the actions of Mr. Bond in tackling Spectre, but I do feel that he could have gone further and caused greater radiation damage to the Caribbean.
Well, I welcome Mr. Grant's decision to try and garrote me with his watch, but I call on him to do more by opening this case.
Fantastic. Well, actually, I might jump board off this discussion to Adam Ferris. I think I've slightly reworded this. Sorry, Adam. He asks, since James Bond villains are all based off the current cultural zeitgeist, what kind of a villain do you think we are in for in the next movies, considering the current?
Oh, that's interesting.
I know what you're going to say.
Trans woman.
Oh, that's going to be impossible to add.
Hold on. I'll make this worse for Nate. Trans women.
Yeah. So there is, in fact, one Bond film that does have a trans woman in. There's one Bond film that does have a trans woman in.
Right.
I will flag it up.
Yeah.
I will flag it up when we get to it. She's not a major character in it. But I think reflecting
back in the
current
60s when models could just be like, yeah, you have a trans model, and they're like, wow, isn't science amazing?
Yeah.
I got it, boys.
Well, it's interesting that it's interesting that the James Bond movies now are kind of trying to, we'll get to this when we get to Craig, but they're kind of trying to be superhero films. The bad guys, I think, are getting more and more. I mean, we'll have to see what No Time to Die does when we do get to it. But certainly Blofeld is much more like a low-key type figure. He's not really tracking any sort of cultural zeitgeist. The Bond films now are just trying to repeat whatever's in popular culture. And it's interesting that even in the Brosnan era, we never really got a kind of war on terror Bond.
No, I want to talk about this when we get to Brosnan.
Yeah,
we never got like the kind of True Lies.
The closest
Bond.
you got was the remake of GoldenEye for the Nintendo Wii, which you brought up in the GoldenEye episode. The Trevelyan.
Yeah. I was about to bring that up.
Hey, look at us. All right, I'll let you do it then. I'll shut up.
Trevelyan, I was about to say, you were great. When the GoldenEye Wii game in which Trevelyan has been radicalized by the financial crash, that I think is possibly one of the most interesting moments of the James Bond franchise in toto. But as for current cultural zeitgeist, I mean, I guess some kind of like... in fact, you know what would be a very, very obvious one? If there was like Extinction Rebellion dialed up to 1,000, so they're like international eco-terrorists.
God, we're just prefiguring each other right now. I was just about to say, there's been a little bit of an uptick in eco. Fuck, this is great. There's another question. It's like, why did we start
we're good at podcasting together.
It's quite nice, isn't it? I was going to say there's sort of an uptick in eco-fascists as villains, and you saw that in maybe not in strictly the most recent years, but
Quantum of Solace,
Godzilla, King of the Monsters, actually is one that has a remarkably like anti-Extinction Rebellion kind of a dint to it for no real reason. And also, you can look at like the current series that's airing on Disney Plus, Captain America's one. What's it called? Falcon and the Winter Soldier, for whom the villains are a group of ostensibly just like anarchists. So you can sort of see the direction the zeitgeist is going.
Flag smashers, we're a small group of reactionary terrorists. No,
flag smashers versus flag fuckers, baby. Let's go.
I sort of have an answer to this, which is that like I tend to think in terms of the Bond movies as being a bit of a system, right? In that you get a Bond actor, and then they put their own particular spin on the role, and the scripts put their own particular direction on it. But the longer they do them, not only do they get tired and older, but like the scripts get sort of more and more baroque. And so they start out being relatively grounded, and then you get to the weird stuff. And people kind of cut loose and get both a little bit more creative, but also a little bit more unmoored from reality and a little bit more fantastical. But I haven't seen that happen with the Craig movies. And that interests me so much, because what you'd expect to see by this point is a Daniel Craig Die Another Day. Like Daniel Craig is going to be fighting a guy on top of a moving plane or something. It's not happening, both because he doesn't sort of want to do it, but also, I think, because they're running out of ideas and it's turning backward. And so we're just bringing back more things. We're bringing back, isn't it going to be interesting to talk about this character that already exists, like Blofeld or like M or whatever? And I think that kind of folding in on itself, I don't know what that means for the future. And I mean, we're getting a new Bond after this next movie, so it may just totally go back to that pattern. But for now, for the next one, I have no fucking clue.
It's almost as if we have no future and nostalgia is collapsing.
It's as if we live in some kind of vampire castle from which we are trying to escape.
Possible to know if there's a word for that, though, so we can just crack on.
It's not.
Yeah.
There isn't. Actually, no. I think we'll get more... In summarizing my answer to the question, I think we will get more cartoonish representations of either left-wing environmental activists or communists and anarchists, but crucially, I don't think they will be described as that. I don't think we'll say, yes, these people believe in a classless society and they want to, and no, it'll be like ridiculously fucking cartoonish. Just because they don't even want you to know what communism is.
Mr. Bond, I'm trying to blow up this satellite because I hate Britain.
Well,
why?
You say that, but the not to pull back to the flag smashers, which is still such a name.
Mr. Bond, I call it Normal Island.
Like they're introduced with a sentence like they want a borderless, classless society.
Dope.
And the next line might as well be just like, sounds good, right? No, actually it's bad. But they're actually represented quite flat. It's not as hammed up as possible. It's a classic thing, and you can listen to some video essays by Kay and Skittles if you want to know more about it. But it's just like we have an ideology that we don't like, but also if we try to represent it too, what's the word for it? Faithfully, then
people
suddenly we start to realize that actually, wait, maybe they have a point. So we have to just make them, the people who want it, interpersonally bad. And they did this in Marvel. They did it with the Black Panther movie, where Killmonger is basically right, but he's also implied to just be like a bit mean interpersonally, so he has to die, and all of the points he brought up that were completely valid are just sort of pushed to the side. And they do that non-stop.
And then in the next general
films,
election, Black Panther just starts stealing from his manifesto.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Dave. Okay.
I welcome Killmonger's decision to steal back the treasures from the British Museum, but I call upon him to do more.
Well, I mean, I got a leaflet through the mailbox today for the Conservative Party in the local elections, and one of their pledges is high-speed broadband for everyone, which is strange. I wonder where they got that.
Broadband communism?
Impossible to know.
Broadband communism?
Where are you going to get the money for
yes,
that
Mr.
one,
Bond.
Jeremy?
My evil plan, Mr. Bond, is to build 500,000 affordable homes.
To be fair, new builds do suck shit completely, though. Anyway.
Actually, to be honest, this is something this is something I was considering the other day, is if I was put in charge of writing the next Craig Bond film, I thought it would be really cool. This is just me now, just like doing Bond fan fiction.
Eon Productions, Abby can be reached at...
You have a soapbox. Yeah.
I have a soapbox, let's do it. I think it would be good to say that the villains are Spectre, but Spectre is a British government department, and what they're going to do is they're going to combine MI5 and 6 and essentially privatize it into Spectre, Special Executive for Counterterrorism and Rendition Emergencies. And then they're basically just going to like sack Bond and M and everybody and just like privatize the whole thing. But Spectre is the cool name that they're giving it to like sell it to home counties' dads.
The plot of I believe that's the plot of the film Spectre, the Daniel Craig one.
The S in
Wait, no,
G4S
it's not, because Spectre's a criminal
Spectre.
organization in that.
Sure, but
no, Spectre's still a criminal organization in that.
Spectre is still a criminal organization, but the plan is to collapse MI5 and 6 into I think they call it the Nine Eyes Initiative, to parody the Five Eyes Initiative in real life, that involves laying off Bond. So you're actually pretty much on it.
Oh, well. All right,
I interrupted. Yeah, no worries. I interrupted Alice just now. Go right ahead.
Yeah, the S in G4S stands for Spectre.
All right, thank you. Glad I went back to you.
Serco, the Special Executive for Revenge Counter-Operation.
I love that extortion is one of the things in Spectre.
I like how even Bond takes the piss out of it when he first hears it, and like No offers him a job, and he's like, "Yeah, can I be in the revenge department, please?" You fucking idiot.
Would you say that Bond films, Pretzacoatl asks this, by the way, would you say Bond films are getting better or worse as time goes on?
100% worse, folding in on themselves.
Yeah, worse, and it's also like measurable if you look at the box office adjusted to $2005.
And again, I want to sort of compare Dalton and Craig here, and I'm actually the only one who's seen both, but there's like... To me, the Dalton films prove that you can take Bond in sort of a darker or grittier or more realistic or whatever direction, right? They don't have the sort of ambient unpleasantness of the war on terror that has sort of seeped into Bond, so that even though we never got our True Lies Kafir-wearing villain, it's still it's enough of the sort of like interpersonal rot of something like a Zero Dark 30 in Bond now that really makes him so sort of uninspiring to watch, I find.
I think they are getting worse, because I think that Daniel Craig, again, we will get to this, but he did try to do something very interesting with the character that has... I think the nature of the movies and the fact that they have to keep making them is working against him. So we will talk more about this eventually in a year's time when we get to Daniel Craig. But I think he tried, certainly in Quantum of Solace, to do something interesting with Bond, and it just... He had like fighting the studio, and it didn't work.
Generally, I find it to be a bad sign for a film franchise when your lead actor says that they would rather slit their wrists than play the role again, and you have them play it again 2 more times.
There's certainly something you could maybe unpack about that. It's probably not.
No,
probably not. It's probably fine.
Didn't Craig say that because it was just so like physically exhausting?
Oh yeah, I mean, partially that's like we're not really we're kind of expecting actors to do more of their own stunts, especially for like a macho role like Bond.
Yeah, and
like
I think Tom
and the
Cruise
stunts
is the
that
one
we're
who
getting them to
normalized that.
do. Yeah, and the stunts that we're getting them to do are more perilous and more death-defying all the time. Even though there's not really any reason for that to be so, as we get better at CGI.
Yeah. A sentient mongoose asks, in your own words and without sources, what is hauntology?
No. Next question.
I refuse to answer this question.
Sorry, I sort of threw that in as a joke. Anyway, Junebug asks,
read a
what are your
fucking
thoughts?
book.
Junebug asks,
Yeah,
what are your
Quran.
thoughts on the works of Mark Fisher, in particular about how they might apply to phenomena like the recent wave of 80s nostalgia?
Don't know, never read it. Next.
That's absolutely right.
Read
Who's Mark
a
Fisher?
fucking book.
Just read Mark Fisher.
Who?
Now, here's one. This is a question from Paint McCullough, who is one of our patrons at the level, which means we are honor bound, duty bound even, to ask this question.
Oh boy.
It's also a good question, which is nice. For everyone, thank you. You have been cursed and must now reside in the body of a Bond character of your choosing. And that's
Not
literally any
not
of
a
them. Villain,
curse.
Q,
I'm
Bond,
fighting Abby
Bond
for
girl.
Tatiana here.
Ooh.
Who would
Oh,
it be
damn it.
and
You did get them
why?
out first.
Jules, easy.
Well, Alice, yeah, you go first.
No, it's fine. I'll let you have Tatiana. I will take oh fuck. Let's see.
Well,
Earliest
I mean,
remaining
residing within
causes
it is
of
not the first thing I'd like to do to the body of Tatiana.
Good
And so-
lord.
in-
Bloody
in-
reside
in-
in that
in
body,
many
all I
way-
fucking mean.
I'm gonna get a spray
Yeah.
bottle like you get for cats. No, okay,
sorry.
fine. Earliest source of gender dysphoria. Fucking Lupe Lamora from The Living Daylights is my answer.
Cannot possibly comment.
And what if you resigned yourself to only ones we've already seen?
Only ones that we've fuck. Okay.
Odd job then.
Yeah, obviously.
Not you, me.
No, I know.
I get to answer this question also.
Yeah. Fuck. No. Okay. Skip me. I'll come back to me. I'll think of something.
I'm thinking, is there anyone I would rather than Tatiana? Who else have we had? What other Bond girls have we had?
I mean, it's a
No,
fuck,
I
marry,
think she
kill,
would
and the
definitely-
kill is always James Bond.
All right. I got my answer. It's
Yeah,
it's
go on.
one of Pussy Galore's pilots. Like, not Pussy Galore herself necessarily, but like, yeah, what one of her one of her various plane piloting
Flying
subs.
circus.
Yes, Pussy
Very
Galore's
well.
Flying Circus. That's me.
No, I think I'm trying to rack my brains and I can't come up with anything better than Tatiana, I'm afraid.
Completely fair.
Again, spray bottle is Alice is brandishing the spray bottle at me.
That's right.
So DK Jones asks, if you could do like a villain's perspective type of production, like Wicked, Joker, or the upcoming Cruella for a Bond villain,
Does it
Who
have
do you
to be a
reckon?
musical?
yes.
And
That's
I'm
not in it, but yes.
Goldfinger. Yeah, no. Fuck. That's a good question, actually.
It's really good. I'm happy with that one.
So we can't just choose James Bond as the villain. We can't.
Well, James
No.
James Bond will be the villain in the show, maybe, but it's like a villain's perspective kind of a thing, like Maleficent or whatever.
Emilio Largo. I want to hear his patter song about his sharks.
If we're allowed to,
Sorry.
if we're allowed to choose someone we haven't already seen, Baron Samedi would be an interesting one. But if we are
Oh,
confining ourselves to villains that we've already seen, I think Oddjob is a bad idea because I don't think there's actually that much to him.
No, also he doesn't
'cause
speak.
He just fucking exactly. He just I think it's a mistake to give him a voice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, Largo is the move here.
Largo's a good one, but I would rather, I think, just pick out a random henchman who starts
Vargas.
working for Dr. No and
Not
then
doing
ends
Vargas.
up... who starts working for Dr. No and
We finally find out what he does.
he sings.
Vargas, he does not eat, he does not drink, he does not fuck. What do you do, Vargas? Vargas sings! And he just goes.
I would follow one henchman through all of the different villains working under all the different villains, trying to stop James Bond the entire way. And trying to kind of just like be a workaday punch clock henchman.
The musical.
Hench the musical.
Yeah.
Okay, 100%. Yeah, I'm on board with this.
If you need any help writing the script for that, I am available.
Yeah, wait, let's actually do this. Wait, okay.
That's too good an idea.
This idea
Cut
is
all of this.
patent
Cut
pending.
this.
Patent pending.
Patent pending.
Do not use this idea.
Copyrighted.
Original idea. Do not steal.
Do not steal. Do not steal. We're racking through these. So here's one of the more personal ones.
Oh boy.
Don't worry. How did you three meet, and what made you decide to start a podcast? And that's asked by Ian Manley.
I have a very boring origin story for every podcast that I'm on, and it is simply that I get bored and I am unable to help myself. And so I will just be like, yo, do you want to start a podcast at whatever fucking pot plant or lamp or anything else is in the room with me? And when none of them reply, I will start DMing people on Twitter who I think are funny. And I'll be like, hey, do you want to start a podcast? And some of them go for it. And when they do, it rules. So that's my answer. That's how we decided to do this.
I think technically we have never met. So Alice and I have definitely never met in any capacity, and depending on which metaphysical theory you subscribe to, neither have Dev and I. We've never even been in the same room, the three of us, and we will do someday. Hopefully fairly soon.
We will all
after
have
Corona.
the blinds down over our faces, like the members of Spectre. But yes,
in a past life, I met Abby in a past life, which is the cold open to the previous episode.
Yes. I think in terms of my memory of how the podcast started was that, Alice, you tweeted out that you wanted to start a James Bond podcast.
Yeah, as like an open invitation. And you were closeted still.
Yeah. Yes, I was. I was still closeted. So I messaged you and was like, hey, when I come out, because I just have a lot of opinions about James Bond. And I thought, yeah, go on, that'll be fun. Like to just like shit post with Alice every now and then. And then I think we mentioned it in the TF group chat, and Dev was like, yeah, I think I want to do that too. And we're like, yeah, go on, Dev, let's get you on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mentioned a friend of the show, Riley, has said before the perfect amount of hosts for a podcast is 3. And I was like, hey, if only you knew a third person. And
yeah, do you know a third
quietly
person?
Inserted myself into it. And we were already
I'm so glad you did.
A group chat as well, the 3 of us together.
Yeah, because we had assisted with sort of Operation Transgender.
Yeah, we were part of the mission control team.
To help me out. Yeah. So we were
that's
already
the
in
reason
the
why.
gender
If you
group chat.
saw, if you saw that original tweet of mine that was like, "Yo, does anyone want to start a James Bond podcast?" and then immediately after that being like, "Well, never mind. See you in a year." That's why.
It's because you asked it, and people were like, yes.
Yes, and Abby was like, yeah, I'd love to do that. And I was like, holy shit, I really enjoy Philosophy Tube, and I think she would be really funny. So, yeah, let's
You were like, whoa, is that Abby from Philosophy Tube?
Yeah, I was like, yo, is that Abby from Philosophy Tube?
We're unaware of each other.
Even No, we were definitely aware of each other.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the way that like our friendship, the 3 of us, or at least on my end, that's where our friendship solidified. Yeah, was because, well, I mean, to get a little bit personal, I've talked about this a little bit before in interviews and so on, but when I was coming out, I couldn't access trans spaces in public because I'd get recognized, and I couldn't access trans forums and so on online because they were full of people speculating about me or sharing screenshots and so on. And I accept that comes with my job, and that's fine. So I had to turn to trans people who I like, some of whom I knew closely, and some of whom, like Alice and Dev, before I came out, I didn't really know you that well. Like we were aware of each other. But I remember, Alice, actually, you were one of the first people I really reached out to when I was like, hey, I think this is happening. And because I knew I trusted you to be discreet. And also I knew that you would be like fucking real with me because you've got that energy of like someone who like doesn't fucking bullshit.
I simply posted back, lol.
For the presence of, for the benefit of the audience, do you know how discreet Alice was about this? Her husband didn't even find out until Abby said it was okay for him to know.
I practiced some major fucking OPSEC on this one.
She was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Whereas I
Alice
met,
is a fantastic secret keeper.
I met Abby through the Trash Future podcast. We'd been on a couple of streams together and ended up just getting put in the same group chat. And I have literally no idea how I met Alice.
No, that's like lost to like the mists of time.
Yeah,
it's like we've known each other forever, which is not true, but it is on a sort of metaphysical level somehow.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely was a lobby on Twitter in like 2015, 2016
we were mutuals on Twitter at least 3 or 4 screen names ago.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And what's phenomenal about this as it is, and obviously if you're a patron, you're aware that people give us money to do this. And what's great about that is that I've been able to mentally reframe my 5 to 6 years of posting shit like #shitballs, or like I would absolutely suck off Tony the Tiger, posting shit like that. I can just reframe that mentally as networking.
Yeah, employment training.
You know what? It's gone 100%.
Great for me. And now you have an account which you can simply log into and tweet James Bonds. And...
which I've done a couple of times. Yeah. Sometimes I'm just thinking about James Bonds and I'm like,
thinking about those bonds.
It is really nice to have an account that we can shitpost from. I like that.
Because you can always just claim it was me if you do something egregious on the account.
I think that's one of the things I love about this podcast.
It is always me.
I really like the thing the joke that I set up when I did the Twitter account for this, which is that it follows one person. And the one person that it follows is James Bond at 007. But unfortunately, or possibly fortunately, depending on how you value these posts, at 007 posts a lot of promotional James Bond stuff. And like... Of course, it's the only account we follow. So if you log into that account, you're going to see them wishing you a happy Easter from James I Love Easter Bond. And so it's tremendously easy to just quote tweet that and be like, yo, what if James Bond was shitting out of his doo-doo ass or whatever and get like 50 faves?
Yeah, it is good. It's a good content mill. Also, I've got a couple of tweets that are just like scheduled to post at some point in like July or August. So look forward to them.
Slurs.
No slurs. No, one of them in particular is...
Unless you get this activator key off of my largest henchman, the scheduled tweet will post.
Yeah, it's just the username and password for the account. No, one of them is just like, a lot of people ask us, are we friends in real life as well as doing the podcast? No, this is a purely sexual relationship. And that's going to come out, I think, the 7th of July. So look forward to that. Now,
why the 7th of July? Why?
I don't know. I just sort of picked a time in the future.
I guess it's 0077, yeah.
Look at me. Anyway, so 3 more questions. We'll just let's crack on through them. First one here being a couple of people asked this, so I don't have a specific name. Sorry. But if you were a Bond villain, what would your evil plan be? And I picked this because I have an answer.
Mr. Bond, unless you retrieve the exploder key from my largest henchman, Big Niels, the estrogen will enter the city's water supplies at precisely midnight.
Mine is a space-based one. I would, and I've said this several times on the TL, I would cause a Kessler syndrome.
Yep.
And shut the sky for at least a generation. Just because I think there's a lot of people... I worded that like I was doing a Fallout post, but I'm talking about like Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, some of my mutuals.
Like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, the 2 richest people in the world. Both of them are pumping a lot of money into space travel. And
you're going to lock that door and keep them all here with us.
I think the concept of being able to do an off-world colony is used a lot as a sort of crutch to get away with not doing everything we can to make Earth habitable. Is to have that sort of pie literally in the sky strategy of, maybe we can have like a Mars colony with indentured servitude, or maybe we can have like a moon colony or a space colony or whatever. I think that is inherently bad for us as a species to even have as a possibility. So I would fucking crash some shit into the ISS. Sorry about the astronauts, you do your best.
No, that's my thing.
I would do something for fucking ISS. I would set off a Kessler syndrome, like impact after impact, like in the movie, what's it called? Gravity?
Yes.
And just make it impossible to get into space without getting shredded by debris for at least 100 years before the orbits decay and it falls back to Earth and you can go again.
No more space.
I thought about, no more space. No more bottom of the ocean either. Fuck everything that isn't land.
You're going to create a fish Kessler syndrome.
I can't stand it.
I think...
Just Dev looking at the state of humanity and I was like, this has too many Z levels.
We need to be moving in 2 dimensions only.
Left and right, that's it. I think...
you can maybe sell me on forwards and backwards. But it's going to be a tough one.
I think it would be an interesting plot of a Bond film to have the villain do something bad in the service of good ends. So I think, like, so for instance, steal a few nuclear weapons, but then instead of selling them, being like, okay, I am going to blackmail the governments of the world with these nuclear weapons. You are going to give everyone free housing and free healthcare. And like, I think that would be very, very interesting to have James Bond being like, oh, well, should I morally actually stop this? Because on the one hand, it's like very, very bad. And the more you make the villain aware of that, the more you have your villain being like, look, I am aware that I am overriding democratic governments here, but like this is an emergency and this needs to happen. I think that would be a very interesting plot of a Bond film with Bond being like, actually, like, I actually fully agree with the ends here.
I welcome Mr. Blofeld's commitment to nuclear weapon use against a major city.
Yeah. I think that would genuinely be quite interesting. And there's no... I don't think that's ever going to happen because the only way you would ever be able to resolve that in a James Bond film as we know them would be for it to be revealed that it's a ploy and that actually they're doing something else selfish with it.
Exactly. It would be like,
I think if you genuinely had a villain commit to that, I think that would be like a really interesting question. For
because
a Bond
like
film.
if you resolved that in the sort of the logical way, it wouldn't be a Bond movie. It certainly wouldn't be a Bond movie as we know them, because it would be Bond acting in the way that a sort of an agent of the British state acts already in real life. You just have, like Bond, coming out from behind the corner and shooting a guy who's going to invent cold fusion or whatever is not like that's not that different from the shit we admit to doing already.
Which, let me tell you, maybe we're just like logged into the same brain space here, but actually that fully brings me on to my second to last question here from Kale Stuffs, who asks, are there any real world periods or events that you would have loved to see someone try to base a James Bond plot on? Look how nicely that dovetails. Oh,
Operation Northwoods.
Ooh.
Operation Legacy.
What's that?
Operation Northwoods was a sort of a provocation plan by the CIA to overthrow the government of Cuba by doing literal false flag terrorist attacks in their name.
Huh.
The CIA was going to stage and commit acts of terrorism against American targets, military and civilian, and be like, yes, we are the Cuban government doing this in order to justify a war against Cuba.
Really? Wow.
I have so many things I
shouldn't be surprised.
9/11 now, but I'm not going to do it. So,
do try and bring the World Trade Centers back in one piece, 007.
007, do try to leave the black box in one piece.
A real event that James Bond.
I'm just going to keep, while you think, I'm going to keep naming actual fucking deep state stuff. Operation Ajax, the Anglo-American overthrow of Mohammad Mossadegh, the elected Prime Minister of Iran.
I think this is something that comes up a lot, and this is barely James Bond related, and this is just me using the platform that I have been given by my dear friends who are larger than me to just be like, left-wing conspiracy theories, basically to a man, are just things that have actually happened. Like things like Northwoods, things like trying to overthrow Mossadegh.
Something historical, I think, like James Bond versus the Paris Commune would be interesting. James Bond following Karl Marx around London would also be quite fun.
The plot of the video game Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Yeah.
You'll have to synchronize at the top of his tower in order to unveil more of your mini-map, 007. Yeah, okay, cool. I don't have one. Lol. Do I have one? Shit, I was too busy listening to you and Alice to actually think of one
historical
myself.
events that would be interesting to
Dev
have.
listens to women when we speak, and that's why we love them.
That's right.
So much.
Dev is a true ally.
I am a trans ally. That's right. Just an ally in general. You know, I'm friends with many people except you, listener. Sorry. Just want to be very clear. Don't get attached. I do not read the replies to any of my tweets. It's not a specific one, but I think, Operation Legacy is the one that comes directly to mind. Oh, I don't imagine it would be easy to build a plot around it. Operation Legacy.
Yeah.
You'd have the bad guys are trying to publish this sensitive information, Bond, and you have to go and stop them. And
Operation Legacy was a project of the Secret Intelligence Service, MI6, and the then Colonial Office.
That's right.
In order to, as Britain withdrew from colonies that gained independence, destroy any trace of files of all of the stuff we did.
So that the governments that had becoming independent wouldn't get hold of them. And one of those,
we burned files and then we dumped the ashes at sea, if you want to know how serious we were about this.
One of those in particular is the history of concentration camps that we had set up. We, not personally, Kill James Bond podcast, but like the British government had set up in Kenya, which is still quite tightly guarded. They declassified documents about it somewhat recently in the last 10 to 20 years, but if you ask the basic man on the street, they would be completely unaware that we in fact ran concentration camps in Kenya, in the Boer, in India.
Yeah, it's so striking about the criminality of empire that a lot of people's sort of abiding memory of the day that their country gained independence was a massive plume of smoke from the British High Commission, totally inexplicably.
I have a friend who is... I
think, again, that would make a very interesting plot of a Bond film if Bond was told that you must track down this very sensitive information that we believe may have come to light, and it's so secret, Bond, you're not even allowed to know what it is. And when Bond eventually does track down the file and opens it and reads it, he finds a list of colonial atrocities. That, I think, would be a great, Act 2 twist. But of course, we won't do that.
That's a very Mickey in Vietnam thing. In fact, actually, specifically, I have a friend from the Gambia who recently posted about their Independence Day, and I was like, "Who'd you get independence from, there, pal?" And he was like, "Your queen, the current queen, the sitting queen. We get independence from." I'm like, woohoo!
Oh my god!
How you doing?
Oh my god! No! I know my answer. I know my answer to the question of what real world thing do I want James Bond involved in?
So if you want a fucking measure for how recent this shit was, the sitting current queen is the one that a lot of these African nations gained independence from. Anyway, sorry, go right ahead.
Sorry, I cut you off because I got so excited by the possibility of James Bond having to cover up Prince Andrew's alleged sex crimes.
How much of this can we use? Hang on. Allegedly. But it has been alleged.
And then Bond's like, wait a minute, I've done half of this shit. This isn't a crime, is it? And I was like, yes, it is.
Bond, it's called the Federal Correctional Institution in Manhattan. His name is Jeffrey Epstein.
Bond, we're going to need you to infiltrate.
Now look here, 007. An ordinary hyoid bone.
However, he's looking at the alleged list of alleged sex crimes that that Prince Andrew has allegedly done. Alleged by someone else, not even by me. It's out of my hands completely. I've just read it on the internet. I'm reproducing it here. And just being like, damn, that's crazy. This guy can't sweat. Amazing.
Yeah, totally psychosomatically induced case of anhydrosis.
It's called psychosomatic anhydrosis, 007.
I have another one, because now that you've uncorked this bottle of things that Alice knows about the British state and stuff that it's done wrong, That's a big bottle. Operation Unthinkable, which was a sort of 1945 to 46 Churchillian, he of the statues, plan to rearm and reform divisions of former Waffen-SS men in order to, if necessary, reinvade the Soviet Union.
Fuck, that's good.
No.
Fuck, that's
100% a real thing. Operation Unthinkable.
Operation Unthinkable. You know they were kind of hedging their bets when they call it that shit, yeah.
I mean, I see why they called it that.
Well, this is the thing. Churchill, contrary to reputation, horrible military plan. And this was one of many times in which he just said some bullshit. And the military essentially, deep stated him. And we're just like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. So.
Damn, that's crazy. We probably should. Should we
I
finish
thought you were
this
going to
off?
say Bond killing Princess Diana.
Now look closely, 007. It's a regular Fiat Uno.
Oh.
With an oil
When you
slick?
hit this
But that's why they
switch.
crashed, is because Bond did an oil slick?
Oh, I'm not willing to make jokes about our Princess of Arts. So, gotta stay quiet on this one, I reckon.
Princess of Hearts, c'est moi.
Mwah. All right. Do we have any questions left, or have we
have
exhausted
a
the question
final
bucket?
question.
All right, let's go. Seventh inning
Final
stretch.
question. Numerous people have asked, how would you kill James Bond?
I would shoot him in the face.
I would shoot
with
him with
gun.
a gun. Many opportunities are presented to people.
Many such cases.
I would use an ordinary gun and shoot him with it.
Yes.
I would allow Mr. Bond to first make a series of publicly recorded comments about his mental health and how it was deteriorating, and then
Zip
kill
himself into a bag
by shooting himself in the back of the head in a car, and then being found zipped into a bag in pieces in the woods.
I think it was a great tragedy the way James Bond threw himself off his balcony 2 or 3 times.
I'd guess higher burn easily. You know what? I would, instead of killing James Bond with a gun when I've got him tied to a chair and completely unable to escape, what instead I would do would be pretend to be seduced by him, let him go, fuck him,
Classic.
get into an aircraft together to attempt to escape from Japan,
Yeah.
and then pin his hands down with an extremely laughable wooden board and attempt to crash the aircraft. And I think that's a perfect plan that would easily kill James Bond. I think that'll probably do it, as far as I'm aware.
We did it, gang.
I'd tempt him in with a Lecter decoding machine, right?
I'm just going to fade out over this.
So I just want to make one thing clear really quickly here. My apologies to everyone who didn't get their question asked. There were 94 of them, and I picked 16.
Worried about not getting enough? Yeah.
Now, obviously, I did handpick these, so if your question wasn't asked, it's because it was bad. So try harder next time. Thank you.
Yes. We will be doing these regularly. More or less, we're going to do them, every 10 episodes, which more or less coincides with each Bond.
It'll be every
we'll vibe it out.
Every 5th bonus, that sort of a thing, maybe.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on Kill James Bond, the podcast where we pretend to be seduced by James Bond, have sex with him, fly him in a small plane
to attempt to escape from Japan.
Tokyo, to attempt to escape from Japan, extend a wooden desk over his arms and then try
What's
to parachute
funny is that that's
safety.
a completely solid wooden bar that extends over his arms, so I can only assume that it was stuck out of the side of the Cessna when they took off.
Bond's like, what's this for? Nothing.
It's a special tool. It'll help us later.
Well, bye everyone.
Goodbye.